Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, London. Hello, London. That's what we do with our students all around the world, and it sounds cheesy, but it gets everyone fired up after lunch. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. As we were introduced, we're here from DebateMate. You'll all have a wristband on your seat, or Cindy will have handed you one. DebateMate is a global social business that turns 10 this year. 10 years ago, our CEO, Margaret McCabe, set up a charity to hire university students to go into schools in areas of high child poverty and teach them confidence, communication, leadership, teamwork, all through the framework of competitive debate. It's taught by some of the best university students across the world, and the results have been phenomenal. A few years ago, throughout the time as a charity, we'd be hustling for money. We'd be going to the big corporates, to ad agencies, to the big broadcasters and saying, please, can you give us money to fund our programs? We take our young people, the stars of the show, along to these events, and they put on a debate, much like you're about to see, and they'd wow the crowd. So the CEO of Tesco would come up to us and say, wow, that 12-year-old is amazing. Can we hire them? We'd look into our employment law books and say, no, you can't hire them, not just yet, but come back in 6 years. And they said, in the meantime, we want our staff to be able to do what you guys are doing. So we set up a separate company, also called DebateMate, but it's a separate arm of what we do, to teach communication, leadership, teamwork, all those same skills in the business world. We've worked with the Premier League, with the BBC, with most of the big high street banks that you've heard of, the law firms and management consultancy firms. But what we're really interested in doing and what we're really excited about is this part of what we do, the engagement and showcase events. I didn't think this would be the way that my career would go 10 years ago, but I'm now every week doing show debates in the pensions industry, trying to liven up the world of boring finance. It seems to work there, and hopefully it will work here. So what have we got for you here today? It's a showcase debate on a contentious topic. I'm not going to say too much about what the arguments are for both sides. I'll let the speakers do that. But we'll be hovering around at the end of today to get what you guys think, but also you can learn a little bit more about what we do. So I'll explain the rules of the debate, the format and everything once I've welcomed the debaters to the stage. But before that, please put your hands together for the debaters at the eurobest Showcase 2017. The MC was telling me earlier that when she sees a nervous speaker waiting in the wings, she whispers in their ear that their walk-on music is going to be Eye of the Tiger. No joke, we had this pre-planned, and we actually had it. So I think that was a welcome befitting the 6 people that we have up on stage. So as I said, I'm Ben, I'll be chairing this today. In a debate, in the DebateMate format, we have 2 sides. This isn't a cozy panel discussion where everyone's going to agree and we all kind of love each other and everything's great. These guys have been put on these sides. They don't necessarily agree with them. They are here for a blood sport. They are here to disagree with each other, make each other look foolish, and hopefully give you guys food for thought. What's going to happen is we're going to go firstly to the proposition. They agree with the motion, so the first speaker would stand up, make their case for 3 minutes, then sit down. We'd come this side. You're in the wrong order, guys. You're in the wrong order.
Can I move?
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
Otherwise, it just becomes a bun fight, Charlie. It has to be ordered.
That's what I'm here for. You just said that.
Then we'll zigzag. So proposition, opposition, proposition, opposition. Then we come over to you guys to have your say. Now, I saw a meme on Twitter today where basically floor speeches and questions from the floor are just shorter speeches disguised as questions. That's absolutely fine. We want to hear your opinions, your take on the debate today. We've also got an extra special prize, and this is something that we've honed in our schools program for the best contribution from the floor, and that's a Nando's voucher to the value of £10.
Wow.
So that's a meal for 1 or half of a meal for 2. So please be paying attention throughout, and you can make your case during the floor debate before we'll come back to the speakers to sum up the debate, answer a little bit of what you've said, but it won't be direct. Then we'll have a vote, and then, time permitting, we'll do a more traditional Q&A where you can ask these guys questions as themselves and as not as debater 1, debater 2, debater 3, debater 4. Everyone cool so far?
Yes.
I can't hear you. Everyone cool so far? Yes. Wonderful. And just a tiny bit of background before we begin. I'd like to thank Louise Benson, who's the executive chair, I think, of the eurobest family, the Cannes Lion family. We bumped into each other on a train 5 years ago. She's been really supportive of us, and here we are today. So I'm thankful to her, to Carly, and to the speakers for putting their heads in the lion's mouth today. So, speeches are 3 minutes in length. Everyone will speak either from their seat if they want, but ideally from the podium. At 30 seconds, I'll do something a bit random. I'll go like this. That's not because I spontaneously love what you're saying. Instead, that shows that the other side can stand up and offer something called a point of information. They can stand up and interrupt. As I said, this is a blood sport. It's fiery. It's going to be combative, but there are rules. So after 30 seconds, you'll hear a clap. You can stand up, offer a point of information, sit down. At 2 minutes 30, another clap. That means no more points of information, however much you want to. 3 minutes, double clap. That means you just need to wind up. And I'm armed with more water than I can imagine. You're still speaking at 4 minutes. I'm going to throw it at you. Okay? Sorry to the tech guys for ruining this beautiful screen behind us. Everyone clear?
Yep.
Wonderful. So it gives me great pleasure. The motion, by the way, you can see it on the stage, but I'll reiterate it. The motion. This House believes that the rise of the freelancer economy will kill the creative agency. Actually, let's get a show of hands. Who agrees with the proposition? Who agrees that the rise of the freelancer economy will kill the creative agency? Raise your hands. And who disagrees? Now let's do that with volume, because my sound tech guys at the back are going to do a very close analysis of who exactly believes what. So cheer on the count of 3 if you agree with the motion. 1, 2, 3. And if on the count of 3 for the opposition, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got some work to do, but I think you're going to make it. So the first speaker coming to the stage. It gives me great pleasure to do this, actually, and I'm not just saying that. I've known Mia since she was 13 years old, when she was a student on the DebateMate program at St. Angela's in Newham. She competed at her school, but also represented DebateMate at national competitions. She then went up to Oxford University, where she studied classics. She was vice president of the Oxford Union, probably the most famous debating chamber and debating society in the world. She's taught with DebateMate in Nepal and across the country. She's currently a program director in the office, which warms our heart. And I've asked everyone for their bit of trivia today what their favorite advert of all time was. And Mia's was the Sony Bravia bouncing ball one. So give it up for Mia.
Not quite sure how I'm going to live up to that intro, Ben, but thank you very much. So you might expect us on the side proposition to tell you that the death of creative agencies is a bad thing. We don't think that. We say it's great that the freelance economy is rising. There are loads of positives, and we should embrace it. We should embrace the death of creative agencies and embrace the freelance economy. So just like Darwin's theory of natural selection, which, if you don't know about it, is the idea that individuals with characteristics more suited to the environment are more likely to survive and reproduce, we say that the freelance economy has characteristics most suited to the creative industry and is most likely to thrive, reproduce, and become the kind of dominant feature.
All right.
But it's not our job on Side Proposition to tell you whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. No, thank you. I'm just going to prove to you today why and how this is going to happen. And I'm going to look at it from 2 different perspectives. We're going to look at it from the perspective of the creative, firstly, and then we're also going to look at it from the perspective of the client. I'm going to look at this in 3 different aspects. So first of all, flexibility. Second of all, personability. And thirdly, costs. And how in each of these categories, the freelance economy is better for both the client and the creative. So let's begin with flexibility. The creative. You can work wherever you want, however you want, for however long you want to, and with whoever you want to. In terms of your time management, you can take it wherever you want to. 1 second. And this is great if you're an individual, you're a creative. You can work flexibly with whoever you want to, however you want to. And this is great for you and a great source of empowerment. Don't you agree, Effie?
Flexibility only means something if you get work. If the big clients still go to creative industries because they build up a relation with them and they trust them, why is that good for an individual?
We say that you can build up an even better, a more special relationship with an individual freelancer creative than you can with a creative agency. And that's why the freelance economy is growing in the UK and will continue to grow, no thank you, and take over the creative agencies. So flexibility in terms of the creative is a great thing, but also in terms of the client, because you can create a more bespoke product. They have more control over the creative process, and they have an experience that is kind of more tailored towards them. Then moving on to personability. For the creative, you have a more direct access to your clients, and there's less bureaucratic stress. You don't have to jump through hoops. You don't have to kind of be accountable to anyone else. You can directly access your clients and work with them and create a better product in the meantime. In terms of the client, you have direct access to the creative, you can speak to them individually, and you can feel that your input is valid and valued. Then turning on to costs. So for the creative, it cuts out the middleman. It means that you're working on day rates, you can earn more money, and you don't have to kind of manage a salary. You can think more long-term and manage your finances thus. And then in terms of the client, there are cheaper products, or products that are, again, more tailored towards you and your cost structure. So what are the results of these three kind of categories for both the creative and the client? It means that products are better and people are happier. And this is why, inherently, the freelance economy will ultimately see the demise of the creative agencies and why you should vote for side proposition. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that great opening speech. And now we cross the floor for the first time to the first speaker from opposition, which is Charlie Lyons. Charlie Lyons is General Manager at Beyond in London, and his favorite advert of all time was Honda Hates Something. So give it up for Charlie.
Okay. So I want to start by saying I love freelancers. I'm in charge of about 70 people in my office in London. I've got lots of freelancers. But the concept of them killing the creative agency is insanity. It's complete madness. You guys are absolutely crazy. You would actually be killing off pretty much one of your main sort of suppliers of work. It would be like you'd be starving. Let's think about what the options would be if there wasn't creative agencies, if we weren't giving you these fantastic briefs from brands like Google and Nike and Samsung and all these other great businesses. You could be a one-man or woman band, which would probably mean you'd be working on fairly low-level briefs, fairly uninteresting stuff, and that could provide a great income, but that's not going to be the kind of stuff that we're going to be bringing to the table. You could go in-house and work for one of the businesses that I just mentioned, but then you're going to be sucked into the stuff that you guys claim to hate, corporate lifestyles, non-agile ways of working, boring, politics, all this stuff, inflexible, slow-moving, I don't need to go on. Or you could the three of you could get together, you could be like mates, but then you'd just be making an agency, right? You could take a slightly bigger brief, but that'd be fucking boring. So I think we've put the argument to bed around, you can't really kill us because you're just killing yourselves by doing that. But where I think this motion does get quite interesting, and I want to give you guys a bit more hope, is if we go a little bit further into the future, because, yes.
I'm interrupting.
Sorry.
Your comment about that clients aren't spending much on freelancers and they get low-level briefs, that's not correct.
If you work on your own, you're only going to be working at a certain level.
Now
that's not true, because the bottom line is, for example, some of the briefs that I work on with Google, you wouldn't have the security clearance on your own. You need an agency to provide the infrastructure. No, sit down. We'll come back to that later. So what I do want is I want to give you a bit of hope so you can enjoy some perspective. We're moving from the information age to the age of augmentation. Augmentation, in its simplest form, you're at a party, you're drunk, your friends are arguing, you qualify a statistic by getting your smartphone out and going to Google and finding the answer or Siri or whichever one. That's augmenting your own brain, right? That's the way things are going. What's going to happen is we're going to start to see the most creative period of time in human existence in the coming years. Internet of Things, 3D printers, humans interacting with robots and algorithms is going to provide this fantastic period of creativity. But for the creative agency, it's going to prevent something quite difficult because we're not going to have all of the roles needed. We don't have all of the skills in-house. You guys could provide some of the answers, which is going to be fantastic. So what's actually going to happen is, with these developments and these new roles needed, the freelance economy is going to allow the creative agency to augment itself in this area of augmentation and provide some of the most creative and innovative work the world has ever seen. So no, you're not going to kill us. Yes, you're going to still be in bed with us. Hopefully there's a great future, and I would invite you to challenge me with some questions now, please.
I'll do that.
Thank you very much, to Charlie, and it only got to the second speech before the first swear word. So now it's open to as many expletives as you want, guys. So now we go to the proposition again to continue the case for their side. It's Lorenzo. Lorenzo is Chief Strategy Officer at the company with probably the coolest name in the entire world, Dude. And his favorite advert of all time was the Red Bull jump.
Hello. I would love to talk about football today, but because Italy didn't qualify to the World Cup, I'm going to move to rugby and American football instead. The point, I want to make an analogy, because there is if you go from the outside world to see the difference between rugby and football, there is one big difference, which is on the bench. So if you see American football, there are 50 people outside of the field at any point in time. So you have 11 people playing and 50 people outside. There is a team for defense, a team for attack, a special team. So basically, whenever you need a specific thing, is out of the field, which means that at any point in time, there's quite likely to be somebody stronger outside of the field than inside. So today is quite similar.
We're talking about creative industries, not sport.
Well, yeah, it's a good point. So I kind of think that is pretty similar. So if you think two agencies, one is like working with their own people, they're 11 people, or how many they are, and the other one who is willing to use the bench, actually the other team will have 50 plus 50, which is the other one for the other agencies not using, at their own side. And they can pick up and choose whatever they want. And mainly my point is that the protagonists today are on the bench. That's where the game is. That's what is happening. We have a guy there called Mark, who is a great thing. We just met him before. And he got a beautiful company called Wonderbrief. So you're not only choosing who's working for you, but where. Do you want a creative in Amsterdam or in Sydney? Do you want a surfer? Do you want to... So you can choose wherever they are, who they are, what team they are, how can they help you. You can change your mind. So the industry has been disrupted already, and we are already discussing how to back up or come back in the game. I'm waiting for some interruption, guys. Nothing happened here?
I can interrupt. I mean, my company already has like decentralized working where you can work anywhere in the world, so I don't see what's different.
Well, the difference is that you have different agency with different objective on different brief, and I do have it as well, but when you call Sydney to have a work, they say, oh, thank you very much, we have our own thing. It will take you a month to have proper talent and a proper defensive attack team to get on brief. If you need 20 people from Sydney, you won't get it, unless you use freelancers. So the agency has been already disrupted, and we are talking about a new model, which is already there. And the agency who hasn't changed, well, they're dying. So, is this the last one or the one before? I actually finished, so...
Okay, thank you very much, Lorenzo. I'm not quite sure whether I'm at Eurobest or on Match of the Day, but either way, that was an amazing speech and a fresh perspective. A quick reminder that after the next speech, we'll come over to you guys. We've got a roving mic somewhere because I know we're battling some background noise, which will make its way to you when you put your hand up. Before that, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Jodie Osborne, who's the founder and fixer at the Back Scratchers, and her favorite advert of all time is the Cadbury Gorilla. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum.
Hello, thank you. So everyone knows that the big ad agencies have to change. I don't think any of us are arguing that. They're going to have to change and adapt to the continued emergence of the freelance ecosystem, the shrinking budgets, and more. But what does that actually mean, and what does that look like? So I was speaking recently to one of our agencies who said to me, Jodie, what do? We can't keep staff. And I turned to them and I said, you're not going to keep staff. For Generation Xers, the average number of jobs a person would have by the time that they were 32 was 2 jobs. For the younger millennials coming up nowadays, it is 4+ jobs. Think about that, 4 jobs in the first 10 years of working. People aren't staying places, they're moving around, they're working remotely, they're going freelance, they want to be working moms and dads that don't have to work full-time. But this could be a detriment to the agencies, as that side would be arguing. However, we at the Back Scratchers think that this is actually a massive opportunity for agencies to embrace the reality and to become leaner, meaner, fighting agency machines, and to actually become better partners for their brands with the support of freelancers. So here's an example from what we've done. One of our clients came to us, which was a large experiential, sorry. They were super frustrated because they had 3 big projects that they worked on each year, 3 big events, and they had massive staff turnover because the event producers that would be there for those 3 events were being kept year-round because they were full-time, and they'd basically be doing admin jobs.
I think the problem of the agency is they tend to talk about themselves, and it's always about them and their examples.
I'm not an agency, so there you go. And they would get super frustrated because they kept having turnover because people didn't want to be doing admin when they weren't on their normal job. So what they ended up doing is we ended up helping them completely reshuffle their structure. They kept everyone in-house that was the sort of people that would really dealt with the clients, the sort of creative side, but anything that was more delivery side, they switched to freelancers. What ended up happening is all of the staff that was there was happier. They did better work because they got the right people for the right projects versus just using whoever was there who was like, I'm an animator, I don't want to be doing this illustration because you don't have an illustrator on staff. And they stopped people leaving. So the agency used freelancers to their advantage. They saw the challenge, they were proactive in fixing it, they were nimble, and the agency wasn't forced to make these changes, but they identified a shift in the industry and were proactive in solving it. So by adapting, focusing on what their strengths are, which are the long-term client relationships, understanding the core of what the client wants by being the brand guardians, and therefore helping to protect the brand's presence across campaigns, they proved themselves to be invaluable to the clients. What was flexible, however, is how that work was delivered. So to adapt and change, be stronger than ever with freelancers.
Okay, thank you very much to Jody, and indeed to Mia, Lorenzo, Charlie, and Jody for their contributions so far. My colleague Jess has a microphone. There's a Nando's voucher up for grabs, so really loosen up those vocal cords and give us your best. Has anyone got a question or statement they'd like to make? It would be great if you could stand up, say who you work, your name and who you work for, and then your question or point. A reminder, these guys are restrained. They're not allowed to answer you in the immediate term. Instead, they're going to summarize them at the end and come back for a proper Q&A right at the end. Cool.
Okay, hi. I'm Laura at Lots of Black Book, LBB Online. So I don't think there's any denying that freelancers are changing the shape of the creative agency. But one of you mentioned your favourite ads being Cadbury Gorilla. Now, that was an ad where the agency was fired because the brand didn't get it. And they stuck to their guns. They said, expletives are out, fuck it, you know? We know that's right. And without the backing of a gang, a group of people as an agency, can you really fight for the creative idea? As one person, you can be as passionate as you like, but a freelancer alone working with a brand or a client, can you make that fight and that stand to push for creativity? Thank you.
Yeah, the power of the team and the kind of power of the bricks and mortar that backs up an agency rather than a freelancer. Yeah? Okay. Name and school, please.
I'm Louise. I'm from Eurobest. I love the idealism around freelancing, but that's just the gig economy, and my concern is around security and what happens when you get sick. And ultimately, I'm worried about the commodification of people and the commodification of creativity.
Thank you very much, Louise. Yep, there's a gentleman there.
Hi, I'm Lionel from Munster. When you talk about creativity and you say that basically in agencies, sometimes you give work to a creative that doesn't really like the category he's working in, I think it's an illusion to thought that freelancers always love the work they are. I think it's maybe because there is free in the world, but at the end, I know a lot of freelancers, because we work with a lot of freelancers, that actually take the job even if the creative environment is not really what they want. Like, for instance, you give work for car industry, and the freelancer tell you, okay, I'm talented, but I don't really like this category. I don't like cars. So I think, in fact, there is no more creativity either in an agency or either in a freelancer. I think the problem is the same. You just move a little bit on the side, but it's exactly the same. If you don't have any appealing about the category, could you do a really good creative work? I don't know.
Okay, great point. Thank you very much for that. There's one down here, Jess.
Thanks. Hi, hello, I'm Belen. I'm from the client side. What I'd like to hear from this side is what can an agency, a creative agency, what's the compelling argument they have for the client that they're going to add on top versus a freelancer? What's the one thing you're going to add on for us clients not to go to freelancers?
Okay.
Yep, one there, one there.
Hi, I'm Marcy. I'm from Frank and Lively. I just wanted to add on to that point, having running my own agency now and having worked for an agency, is also how agencies can justify to clients at least 3, sometimes 4 times the rate that they're charging their freelancers out at direct to client. And once clients are aware of that difference and aware that it's actually the small guys doing all the work, how they're going to stand behind that.
Thanks. Hello, you hear me? Oh, yeah. Thanks for the shout out, Lorenzo. So my name is Mark. I'm from Amsterdam, and I have a company called Wonderbrief, and we're basically a platform for remote professionals, creatives that can work from anywhere in the world. And what I wanted to think about the point that you addressed, that the people don't fit with the job that they're doing. Actually, there is a world of talent out there, of freelancers who can come from every country in the world. Like we have people, and you as well, like from 100 countries, who can fit with the challenge that you're facing. So I definitely think, I don't want to say that it's killing the agencies. I think the agencies just need to evolve and be more open for it, and then that's like a win-win for everyone. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your 2 cents. I think we've got one more at the back, and then time for a couple more if people are really hungry for chicken.
Hi, I'm Sarah from Finch Factor. I guess one of my points that I wanted to make was that what you're describing isn't necessarily freelance, it's more a collective, because you're either going to be in-house as a freelanced collective, or you're going to be a collective in yourselves. One person can't possibly answer a brief from a client. I wouldn't even know what that brief would look like that one person could answer it. So as a concept that freelance economy could kill the creative agency, I think the collective economy could.
Okay, anyone got a burning desire to ask any more questions? Okay, in that case, thank you everyone who competed from the floor. I think we've got an idea of who's won the Nando's, but Jess will definitely tell us at the end. Before that, we go back to the stage, back to the debaters, and we remain with the proposition and then end with the opposition. Points of information are still allowed, guys, so please make use of that freedom. Before that, the summary speaker from the opposition side is Pip Jameson. She's the founder at The Dots, and her favorite advert or campaign is the fearless girl facing up to the bull on Wall Street. So give it up for Pip.
Oh God, I really feel like the fearless girl raising up to the bull. You are completely right. It is the collective that we're talking about. You know, freelancers as individuals aren't going to hugely disrupt the industry, but collections of freelancers, oh, my hair is all thing. Collections of freelancers coming together in bespoke hybrid teams will absolutely disrupt what's going on. And I think what you said about the value to a client, now a client can go directly to a team of freelancers instead of going through an intermediary of agencies. And I'm seeing it firsthand. So just so you know, obviously I'm the founder of The Dots. We've got hundreds of thousands of members. We collect a huge amount of data about what's going on at the moment. I will tell you, traditional advertising agencies are fucked. Sorry. But basically, and this is indicated in WPP's. Go on. Hello, darling.
It's a creative agency, not the advertising agency. So
Well,
there's several different kinds.
I'm kind
Can't
of
put us
like,
all in one bucket.
I'm sort of like just going to say creative advertising agencies the traditional model is fucked. So basically, what's going on at the moment, obviously we know there's a massive rise in freelancing, but sometimes people don't realize how big. So 59% of our community is in full-time work at the moment. 61% of that 59% are now open to freelancing. So there is a mass exodus happening across the industry. Also, the other thing we're seeing in ad land is people are just leaving ad land to work direct for brands, start their own agencies, start their own teams. So there's a massive exodus. The other thing that's happening is clients are increasingly working on project work, but increasingly going to, oh my gosh, I'm going to remove this. Can you hear me here? No. They're increasingly going direct to teams. So Google is a perfect example. Google's actually one of our clients. What Google do on the dots is they will search a project that they like. They will then discover the full team that worked on that project, and then they will get that full team in to deliver on the brief. So I'm really sorry to say Google is already doing this. And the budgets now are big because they can save so much money by going directly to freelance teams. And so just so you know, the way the dots work, yeah?
We are also working with Google, and they are also coming directly for single freelancers who will then go within a team.
Yeah, and in the end, they're doing both at the moment because they're hedging their bets. But when they realize they can get the same output by going to a collective or a team to actually work on a project, and it's cheaper to go directly to the collective or team. And I see you shaking your head, and I guess the value that they're going to argue that clients have is the strategic long-term value. I think you can still find that from kind of more disruptive emerging agencies, like there's things like Akin or Utopia, where you've got really senior people who used to be in agency land, now operating as consultants and forming massive collectives around them of freelancing teams. And the reason we're seeing profit warnings across the industry is because this disruption is happening. And quite frankly, Martin Sorrell is fucked, and is that really a bad thing? Sorry. Bye.
I know I put a disclaimer at the beginning that they might not necessarily agree with what they say, but I think Pip might. That's a disclaimer. So that was amazing. Thank you very much. Excellent challenges from this side. Now we come to the end speaker. It gives me enormous privilege, just like it did for Mia, to welcome to the stage Iffy. Iffy was a DebateMate student while at the Bridge Academy in Hackney. He's been with us since he was 12 years old. He now schools me in everything from how to cook, what to wear, how to speak, how to talk to people. I go to him for relationship advice, professional advice, the works. He's my man. While he was at the Bridge Academy, he won all of the DebateMate competitions. So we run massive competitions across the world, but primarily here in the UK. So his school was top of the 250 that took part. Off the back of that, he was selected to represent England. So the England World Schools debating team is normally the preserve of Westminster, Dulwich, Eton, St Paul's, and Iffy was the first non-selective state school student to break through. England then went on to win, so we have won a World Cup in something, guys, and it was in Germany, which was doubly sweet. So he's the reigning world champion in debating, so that deserves a little round of applause.
Point of interruption is quite of a presentation of the next speaker. I think it's quite of a bias.
Okay. He doesn't need my help, trust me. But as part of, he came and worked for us as on his gap year last year, and as part of that, he judged a debate at Downing Street, which David Cameron attended. And David Cameron, when he welcomed our students from all over the UK into Downing Street, he stood up, and we thought he was just being nice and friendly to the debaters. He was like, my biggest regret, this is an Etonian, Oxford-educated Prime Minister, my biggest regret is that I didn't do debating at school. This was May the 10th, 2016. Every week he was in the Houses of Parliament, expletives allowed, getting fucked over by Boris Johnson and Michael Gove, who had done debating. And even though he looked like the most polished man in the world, he couldn't hack it. And 6 short weeks later, we were where we were. So David Cameron endorsed debating, endorsed Iffy. Since then, he's in his first year now at Bristol University, and his favorite campaign of all time was the iPod Shuffle dance one. So give it up for Iffy. And I accept the bias, sorry.
If you're a young person today, this debate is asking you, how do you map out your future career? Do you either A, Go with the recommended, safe, and trusted route. Work for an agency which you know has brand appeal, which you know means that having that on your CV means you'll definitely get a job and you'll be in a safe space? Or do you risk it all to be a freelancer and be your own boss? Because it's easy to romanticize the idea of being a freelancer, I get it. Being your own boss, picking your own hours, it's so flexible, it's so fun, and that sounds really nice. But flexibility just means uncertainty. It means not knowing whether you're going to have work next month and not being able to plan out your life. And that is not something long-term many people are able to do. No, thank you. So I'm going to ask two questions. Is being the freelancer good for the individual, and then is it good for clients? So for the individual. Because we think having people around you means when you have different ideas which are a bit more niche or nuanced, as we got in the audience, having an agency around you who has money to also allow things to fail means you can do more creative ideas. The problem with freelance teams is that they always have to make sure everything they do is successful. Creative agencies can take more risks because they have money and capital to back it up. That means you get better creativity as an individual when you work for an agency. No, thank you. But also security, because ultimately, I want to know, while it's nice having projects now and again, many freelancers spend months not getting any work. And that is a very difficult position to be in, particularly if you're vulnerable. So if you're someone who doesn't come from a lot of money, don't have your family's money to rely on, you can't afford to often just go it alone. Going it alone is often the reserve of the privilege, which many people don't have the experience to do. But many people who eventually go it alone started off in agencies, and that's the main reason why agencies won't die. Because all of the examples they give you of these people who are freelancers, they all started in agencies. And the reason they were able to be freelancers is because they already had the big agency's name on their CV. That's the only reason they got, I'll take you one moment, that's the only reason they ever got a contract. If they didn't get that work for an agency in the first place, they wouldn't have got a contract, because agencies are still the way you get work. Yes.
I agree that it's harder for kids to have stability, but we're finding that they're not applying for agency jobs. They're going to other brands like tech companies or more exciting companies than agencies.
I think that is only true to some extent, because I think for many young people, the first thing they try and do is get a big thing on their CV and then decide what will be the thing they find most enjoyable, because that gives you your stability. But if you're a client, we will ask, why do you think as a client, why would you go and work for, why would you pick an agency? And we think there's a number of reasons. Firstly, security. Because what they don't want to tell you about the freelancers is, if you have a small team of freelancers and one person in that team gets sick for months, as a client, you now are in a completely vulnerable position. In an agency where there are many people, you have far more security. Secondly, as a client, you also have a personal relationship. You develop your opinions with an agency over years and years of trusted reports and projects. No, thank you. Within freelancer, often you do hire them once or twice. But specifically with freelance teams, you don't get as much flexibility as they want. Because actually, if you're in a huge freelance team, the more people you add into that team so you can get bigger projects, the more you basically just end up in an agency. You get into an agency, no thank you. And then you're like, you know what, I'll go it alone, I'll go it alone. And you're like, well, I need probably a couple more people. And then maybe a couple more, and then a couple more. And then you find yourself in a 50-person team with all of these same issues, no flexibility, which isn't any better for the individual. So the question here is, in 20 years, can you imagine a world where agencies are no longer existing? That isn't true. Because freelancers don't kill it, they only make it stronger. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Iffy, and especially for quoting Kanye West in your closing line. So please join me in giving a massive round of applause to the 6 debaters. Now we're going to go for a final vote. I think it was probably about 80-20 in the first vote, so let's see if anyone's changed their mind. The sound guys have got a really high-spec decibel meter in the back. It's going to be purely, really scientific. It looks like a bottle of aftershave. Yep, that's fine. So if you thought that the winners of the eurobest Debate Mate Showcase 2017 were the proposition, make some noise. Not bad. And on the count of 3 for the opposition, 1, 2, 3.
Yay.
He's saying it's too close to call. We're going to have to do it again. So, on the count of 3 for the proposition that Freelancer Economy is killing the creative agency, please give it up for the proposition. 1, 2, 3. I told you it was close. And the opposition, 1, 2, 3. Slightly deeper, but also probably slightly louder. The winners of the Showcase Debate 2017 are the opposition.
They work in agencies.
Yes, good job.
Me too.
So there's just one other prize to give. which is the best contribution from the floor. I think time has run away with us, so I'm not sure that we can have a question and answer, but I'm sure the guys will hover around. We certainly will. We're DebateMate, we're here. We're really privileged to be here. Hopefully we'll see some of you guys again. What we do is skill up young people, two of whom you've just seen today, to go and take on the world. So if you want a bit of that, come and talk to us. Jess, you got someone in mind? Wonderful. So welcome to the stage our Executive Director, Jess, for the biggest prize, the biggest announcement of 2017. So.
Hi everyone. So I think there were loads of amazing points raised from the floor, and actually quite often Ben and I do these debates all the time, and quite often we're forcing people to come forward, but it wasn't like that at all. So really interesting points raised. But the point I went for offered a fresh perspective and something that Iffy picked up on his speech, and it was the point from the lady down here about the client. What does the client want? So give it up for, I don't know your name.
You've got to come to stage and get your prize. Have you got it? Come up. This is your moment, man. This is your 15 seconds of fame. Massive round of applause. You can have it. Thanks. Are you going to thank your parents who got you here?
No, but so I'm a client. I'm from a very traditional company, Procter & Gamble. You've seen us before in the morning. And we are really thinking that our agencies need to reinvent or something will break. And so we normally have had very long relationship with the agencies. You know, they've handled our brands over periods of 15 years, 20 years. But today, something really massive is happening to our industry of advertising. And unless really the traditional agencies reinvent something and really shows the value, something may go wrong, I feel. So that's my point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And on that bombshell, just one final thank you to everyone. If you wouldn't mind making your way from the stage, thank you. We've kept to time. Wonderful. We're DebateMate. Thanks to Eurobest. Thanks to Louise. Thanks to Carly. Everyone. Thanks. Bye.